So, about a month ago, my girlfriend bought me Star Wars Battlefront, and I was extremely excited. I got home from work, put it straight in, waited for it to install, and played it all day the next day, all day the next day, and had an absolute blast. But I noticed that, like, on Facebook and YouTube, any videos I've seen for the game, people are just bashing it, like, with no real reason behind it. I don't see how people can mutually hate the game so much when, in my opinion, it's a pretty damn good Star Wars shooter. I played the old Battlefront, so I do have like the nostalgia factor that everyone else had coming into play with this game, but I still didn't think it was a bad game. Now, a lot of the comments were saying things like they should have just made it Battlefield with Star Wars fonts and it would have been better, or other people were saying that it just was Battlefield with Star Wars over it. So, from what I'm seeing, the fucking fan base is just impossible to please. They couldn't have done anything to make you guys happy. Like, if it would have just been Battlefield with just Star Wars weapons and noises, you would have all been pissed. But then they don't do that, and they make it play differently than Battlefield and more like an arcadey type shooter. And suddenly everyone's like, well, it should have just been more like Battlefield. It's not supposed to be Battlefield. Just because it's made by DICE does not mean that they had to make it like Battlefield. That's what they were avoiding. The only similarities between this and Battlefield, as a counter-argument to the people saying that all it is Battlefield with a Star Wars skin, is the first-person shooter and the fact that it runs on the same engine. Other than that, it plays almost nothing like Battlefield. The physics are different, the guns behave differently, the heroes make a huge part in how the game plays out. It plays nothing like Battlefield. Personally, I believe that this was a recipe for failure for DICE, and there was no way they could have pleased the fan base. They had the Star Wars fan base to please, who had these unreal expectations for a new Battlefront game, but then they had the Battlefield fans, who had either not played Battlefront, or I don't even know what else could be, because obviously they didn't know what type of game this was going to be when they announced they were going to be making a Battlefront game. And I think they captured the fun of the old Battlefront games. Maybe not quite as well as the first two, but we got to realize those games came out when I was like in elementary school still. I didn't have all these adult problems now and more time to play the games. So no game is going to feel quite as good as when you were young and you just like stayed up till 6 a.m. with your friends playing it, and didn't have a care in the world. That's not going to happen anymore. So I personally believe you guys should buy the game. It's really fun, even with the lack of content, which is one thing I can agree with a lot of people. There's not that many guns or maps, but even with the lack of like a shit ton of content, it's still really fun, and I think you'll have a blast playing it. Plus, they're going to be adding more down the line, of course, as every shooter does. But don't just read comments on YouTube or read forums about people bitching about it. Play it for yourself, and you'll see that you can have a blast with it, and it doesn't just have to be like playing the game as the world's worst fucking critic in the universe. Just play it, enjoy it. The graphics are mind-blowing. You'll have a hell of a time with it. It's a really good game, and I think people are unjust in their accusations of saying it's just Battlefield with a Star Wars skin, or the people counter-arguing saying it's like not enough like Battlefield. I think it's its own game, and it does a very good job of setting up what they wanted it to do. It feels like you're playing a Star Wars battle, and that's all that they were trying to capture in Battlefront.